I've been humping. I have been humping. First, number one, never quit your day job. All right, don't ever believe anything them folks in Hollywood tell you. Keep your day job. Number two, I've been doing a fair amount of speaking engagements. I've been averaging about 100, 150 speaking engagements a year. And that means a lot of travel, of course, domestically and international. Number three, my new book, Start Where You Are, has just come out on paperback. And most recently, we're working with MasterCard on financial literacy and investment education ideas and getting folks to really focus on there are more tools in this financial toolbox that could be applicable to you and your situation. So tremendously excited about the affiliation with MasterCard. And one of the things we hope to do is begin a dialogue to have folks really start thinking and taking a hard look at all the tools in the financial toolbox and what really works for you and in your situation. All the tools are not for everybody. Some of them are more applicable to your situation or mine. I happen to be a big fan of what we call the prepaid products, which means you're spending your own money as opposed to your money and having to pay an interest to a bank. So I'm a big fan of those products. I could have become him. I could have become another alcoholic, wife-beating, child-abusing, illiterate loser. And a lot of people would have said, well, look where he's from. He didn't have a choice. And I say, no, that's not true. I did have a choice. I saw the light in my mom, and I embraced that. Now, we all understand genetics. You're going to get your mama's eyes, your daddy's nose, ain't nothing you can do about it. But the spirit of who you're going to become as a man or a woman, I believe you can choose. And it is indeed biblical that we are all born with a spirit that allows us to embrace God, whatever you perceive God to be. But that same spirit can be beaten down to or submit to darkness. I chose the light. I may say this, there were some books that I read as a young person that became very, very important to me that to this day, very, very important books. Man, Child in the Promised Land, Claude Brown. The story of a young man being the first generation born after blacks had migrated to New York City from the South looking for a better world. The autobiography of Malcolm X. And one of my favorite authors, Dr. Maya Angelou. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I have to tell you something now. It's kind of personal. But some time ago, I had an opportunity to ask Dr. Angelou to write me a list. I asked her, if there were only 100 books that you could read your whole life, what would they be? She wrote me a list. And the funny thing was, the first 30 were all hers. But as she said, well, I started alphabetically. Oh, okay. But I'm in the process now of continuing to work my list, and tremendously excited about that. There was a scene in the film that directly was basically because my mom. That scene that takes place on the basketball court where the little boy throws up the ball and says, I'm going pro. It was not written that way at all. What was written was, our writer had a very dark view of the world, and his vision was that when the little boy throws up the ball and says, I'm going pro, the father says, forget it, it will never happen, I couldn't do it, so that means that you couldn't do it. I waited until we were going to film that scene that day, and I went up to Will Smith on the set and I said, man, you can't tell that to that little boy. You can't tell that to that little boy because that's not what my mom told me. We had a very in-depth discussion about it. Will, myself, our director, Gabrielle Muccino, and one of the producers on the film who will remain nameless. But we had a very heated discussion. And after about 20 minutes, it was Will that says, you know what? Chris is right because my mom told me the same thing. And we tore up the script, and what we wrote was, don't ever let somebody else tell you what you can't do. When other people are saying something can't be done, you got to hear them saying that they can't do it. You got a dream, you got to protect it. You want something, go get it. Period. That was my mama talking.